Do you want like a Topo Chico in your hand so you can sip on something, Bryce?
Yeah, I'd take that. This week we've got a conversation with Anjan Katta. This is not somebody that I had known before sitting down with them. I'd seen the work that they were doing with Daylight. They had clearly built some buzz, but I wasn't as familiar with the backstory of the business, which, as you'll hear through this conversation, was such a fascinating unfolding of an opportunity and a completely dedicated and unhinged founder going after a market that no one but him believed in. And I found that fascinating. The lengths to which he would go to bring his vision to reality are inspiring. What I appreciated about this conversation was just how authentic he has been, not only to his vision, but to his values, turning away money, turning away opportunities that didn't align with what it was he was trying to do. Scaling up a team, having to scale it back. It's an absolute roller coaster of a ride, an incredible story, and an entrepreneur who is dedicating himself and this business to solving one of the most pressing health crises of our time in terms of our relationship with our devices. And I hope you enjoy listening as much as we enjoyed having this one.
Bryce, the only other caveat is this might become a therapy session. I was so disappointed by the number of people who did not support me trying to build this outside of a venture capital, sort of different. Yeah, it was like all the humane tech people, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it was heartbreaking.
Why was that important to you?
Because otherwise you get a Pyrrhic victory. Like you win the battle and you lose the war. Like what's the point of becoming successful? But for all intents and purposes, you are algorithmically the same as everybody who came before.
Right.
Right, and it's like, why the fuck do you do this when it's so painful? It's because you want things to be different.
Yeah.
You want it to be a certain way that we complain about and we talk about. But like, come on, let's do something about it, so.
And the thing you wanted to do about it was all the way down to the funding.
Yeah, because I'm a systems designer, right? Like I study a lot of stuff. It's obvious when you meet these people, they have a lot of good intentions. But when incentives are misaligned, that dominates almost every other thing. And the thing that blew my mind is it's not often the contractual legal incentives,
Yes.
It's the social pressure.
Yes.
It's like, you got to meet this person, they look you in the eye, they look like you're an idiot, they look like you're disappointed, your friends say this, like that is actually the thing that sort of keeps you in a way. And so.
It's funny you say that because when we started Indie, I don't think I fully appreciated how entrenched that thinking and that like social construct was out here. You know what I mean? Like it felt like if you decided to do something differently, you were choosing essentially like an outcast path. You didn't have anything to talk to other founders about.
Right.
You didn't have anything to talk about over dinner with people. It was completely unrelatable. And there's also that element of it where, or the prevailing thought is that you are also like less ambitious
or anything? Or?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I'll make sure my toes stick out just to keep you from being the only one.
Toe solidarity.
Toe solidarity.
Oh, solidarity is crazy.
Sorry, you were saying the sort of the social aspect.
Yeah, I would imagine.
There isn't the playbooks or the things to talk about and commiserate.
Well, yeah, I was talking to somebody and they were talking about the same desire to like do things differently, to do it on their terms. And there was this kind of pause on the call. And they said something along the lines of like, what will I talk to my friends about at dinner? Because what we do at dinner in San Francisco with other founders is we talk about, are you raising right now?
Yeah, right.
How's it going?
Right.
You know, who have you raised from? So then there's this like social hierarchy that starts to emerge based on like the brand and pedigree of the funds that have invested in you. And I don't think I appreciated that when we started.
What do you think of Andrew Reid at Sequoia? It's sort of like
all that. Right. That's like fodder for, like people bond around that stuff.
Yeah, it's like harder to talk about the more vulnerable stuff. So this is the easy thing to talk around.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you say more about that? What do you mean?
I mean, how many people actually, like, how much is it, yeah, we're crushing it. Team's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you got to put this up, otherwise everybody will find you out. And so if you can have a topic that's outside yourself, it's like what small talk is, right?
Yeah.
Like you do something outside of anything that allows you to like sort of feel safe with somebody. It's like talking about, oh, so what do you think of this guy at Sequoia?
Right. It's a lot easier than talking about how hard things are, or that you and your co-founder are getting along, or that
no one bought the thing that you spent the last year building. No one actually wanted it. Turns out.
Yeah.
How do you navigate it? Because you're still kind of operating outside of the mainstream.
Yeah. I mean, it was A2. It was all non-traditional funders.
Yeah.
I mean, as angels, we got, the founders and so on. But the second you have an institutional set of incentives there, and it's like crazy. Like, it's good we'll edit this because I can get more saucy. But
100%.
Oh, get as saucy as you want.
no, but this, you know him.
Yeah.
And his entire advice for me at the end, I loved he was so honest. I think he was drunk or something. He like called me Thursday at 10. He's like, I love you so much. Like he actually said yes to doing the deal with somebody else who was mentoring us.
What?
And then changed his mind of 3 hours later.
Oh my gosh. So he calls you to tell you no.
He called me to tell me no after through that other person. He said that it was a yes.
Okay.
And he's just like, the biggest mistake you made is you just didn't manipulate me enough. Like, why did you not lean into the Steve Jobs archetype and like sell me the biggest vision? Like, why are you talking about like the pragmatism of how you're doing this and it's bootstrapped and that's DNA? It's like, I wanted you to be Steve Jobs. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, what did that mean? He's like, I don't know. When I came to your office, sort of like, don't greet me so quickly. Like, finish filling
Be
up.
more standoffish?
He was just
Aloof?
I mean, the guy's awesome in how earnest he is. I so respect that deeply. It's just sort of like, it's like from Silicon Valley. And he's like, yeah, it's funny because this is like a wool carpet, but he's like, yeah, if we sat down on a wool carpet and you sort of like was wearing like a dashiki or something, like, I think that would have worked for me. And I'm like, am I being pranked right now?
Right. This has to
And
be
he goes on like that for 10 minutes. I want to hang out with this guy.
with that?
I feel like I'm playing the bingo card of life. I'm just trying to have the maximum number of interesting experiences.
One of the interesting things about that, though, is like, that. Like, that's the game. You probably know that's what people want you to give them. So why aren't you giving it to them?
Because I don't want to win their fucking game. That's so boring. I think that's my primary contention is Silicon Valley has no leaders for the most part. I'll speak in absolutes to make it simple.
Dude, I love this.
I mean,
This is spicy.
no, there are no leaders. If you think of all the design that happens, all the UI UX interaction, it's all under Papa Steve Jobs' like, he said this is what's okay, and everybody does that. Whether you're Lenovo or this or that. Stripe made gradients a thing, everybody copies that. Linear did this, and it's like there's so few people actually trying to move the world to where it should be versus following the world as it is.
That's very different than adding a gradient.
Yes.
Right?
Hopefully that is clear that it's different. But it's like meeting the world where it is, playing the game within the incentives. There's like a deep practicality to it. You sort of, there's no way you can't do it a bit, right? You can't be an idealistic kumbaya. But what it means to lead is to move things. It's to do the uninevitable. Selling real estate is totally inevitable. Doing the SaaS startup that does this vertical is like pretty much inevitable. Most of the things people do are basically inevitable. And there is sort of a form of leadership there, but that deep form of leadership, of pioneering, of making the uninevitable happen, that is so rare because you're then fighting against the grain at all layers of the stack. Like, to me, it's like my power comes from my authenticity. And the way I think about authenticity is it's the least amount of layers internally and externally. And if you remember all the pizzazz about that LK99 shit, do you remember that superconductor thing, blah, blah, blah? Well, the whole point of a superconductor is when you don't have resistance, insane things are possible. Guess what having layers is it gives you control, but it inherently gives you resistance. And so there is like a massive difference if you have no resistance versus some. I'm just going to make it up. 1 unit of resistance versus 0.1 is also like non-linearly massive. And so for me, if you can reduce the amount of layers, the amount of control that you have inside, you don't have all of this resistance. You don't have all these programs running. You're running fucking assembly code. It's not JavaScript on top of this or with a web app on top of that and a Chromium on top of this. If you want to have the stamina or energy or like the innocence or whatever you want to call it, sincerity to do this, because it's so fucking miserable. You can't do it otherwise. The fundamental thing that keeps it all up is that lack of internal layers. It's authentic. I'm intimate with the world, It's very emotional. You have a lot more roller coasters. There's a certain energy and power and durability that comes from that. And if the entire process of getting capital is all about basically manipulating these people who are actually not truly investors from the point of view of like deep first principles thinkers. They're momentum, pattern recognizers. I don't blame them. If you're meeting like 100 people a week, it is hard to actually have the intellectual energy to drill down on everything versus use heuristics. And if 99% of things are not going to work out, who's there to hold you accountable that you didn't pay attention on the one that you should have drilled down? Technically, if you didn't drill down on all of them, you like barely notice it, right? And you get one DoorDash. And so there's no feedback loops of accountability in it. So my feeling is anywhere in society, whether it's academia or venture capital, when you don't have the feedback loops of accountability, you sort of are in virtual reality. And to me, virtual reality is that pattern recognition. Is he fit in like Steve Jobs? Like, does he sound like Sam Altman where he's saying something humble, but he says like, and because I think I'm pretty sensitive. I'm like, I could fucking play this game. If I like read the same stuff you do, I know your mental models, I can speak your language. I'm not gonna say who, but one of my friends got a lot of money out of Sam Altman by watching all of his really old podcasts and videos.
Interesting, okay.
And the guy's done so much, he's forgotten about him. And he basically languaged in a way that was from old Sam Altman. And Sam was like, these guys are geniuses. So
just co-opted it.
Yeah, and I used to have a lot more judgment and anger about this. Probably if we get into it, we get it. But I'm just like, I don't blame you. Why would you do it differently? If there is an accountability loop, like if there is not a Tuesday deadline, you don't do the thing, right? Like, I don't know, in the company where I'm like, hey, before the all hands do it, like 75% of it gets submitted in the like 10 minutes before the all hands, right? Like I'm similar as well. I'm pretty ADHD. So I sort of don't judge it. Yeah. There is something fucked up that when I feel like the key point of entrepreneurship is to explore possibility space widely and deeply. And that's where you find asymmetric opportunities. It's because you can go in corners and nooks and crannies and places that are new or unexplored or so on. To me, that has to come from a bottom-up, authentic thing. Because if you try to do it analytically, if you try to do it convergently, it's already mined out, right? If you're going off of what Forbes says, the 30 under 30, like it's mined out. It's sort of like, if you try to invest in a particular way, all the quants have removed it, right? You have to invest in a very unique way. Most of the alpha is gone. If you actually do want to me, capture the essence of entrepreneurship, that bottom-up energy has to come from an authenticity. And authenticity, once again, I'm defining as like the lack of layers. So you actually feel what you're fascinated by, what you're frustrated by, what you're annoyed by, what you're like, that's fucking stupid. I could do a better job. Like these clowns don't know what they're doing. Like that, whatever that may be. Or the weird obsession why to look through something or to go hang out with people and go stay up way too late talking about the specifics of nitrogen, fertilizer, whatever it may be. That capability is the force that allows innovation. I'm simplifying it. And then if you put people through this bottleneck, especially if you're doing something hard, capital often is your deepest constraint, right? Because you'll recruit people because it's interesting and hard. You then have to sort of become this person whose entire thing is to play to the mental models of these gatekeepers of capital. And I think there's three things wrong with that. One is I would want to invest in somebody based on their ability to face reality in the domain of where they are and have a clear idea of where it should go, right? Like I need your mental models to be like real, because reality, you got to survive that. And if instead what I'm receiving is somebody whose primary orientation is about spinning ideas in the clouds, I'm like, that doesn't give me any credibility that you can do this incredibly hard thing. So I think one is it forces you to operate in a different place. Like, I don't know, when we meet founders to founders, what we're most impressed by is like when somebody understood the thing so deeply, he can like make a different decision, come up with a different insight, go deeper in something. The awesomeness doesn't come from its like fantastical in the concept space TAM. It comes from like, holy fuck, you actually found a like chink in the armor sort of thing. And so I think that screws you up. I think the second thing is there's no rituals around this. So if you're fundraising for a while or you're practicing for a while or you're spooked by the entire thing because it's existential, that becomes the world you live in. And then there is no, okay, time to let that all down and go back to like being in reality. Like I have very clear memories of friends, the way they talked, the way they described their idea. And then they had to raise from institutional VCs. You could argue it applies more broadly too. And then whether it was 3 months later or 6 months later or a year later, you're just like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Like, tell him what your idea is. Stop pitching him.
And stop trying to fit inside this little box that they know how to fund.
Yes, please bring your thing into a part that's legible and digestible.
That's right.
And that's okay if you can then go back and expand to it. But I think there's too much of a tragedy of then you're stuck in that, both in your own head and then the external expectations you set and sort of the whole amalgam there. And I find that to be incredibly sad.
Well, think about how much people end up trading off what's authentic to themselves versus what they ended up selling to investors because that's what they wanted to hear. It's a real devil's bargain for a lot of people. And I don't mean that in like any kind of malicious way. It's just the reality of living with a partner who said, who could at any moment say, you told me you were going to do this and you're not doing that. Why aren't we doing that? Reality of it being, I told you that because I knew that's what you wanted to hear, not because that's what I wanted to build. Not because that's what's, not because that's what's like driving me.
In week one, you have that distinction.
For sure.
But 3 months in or whatever it may be, it's like, that quote, like, be careful wearing the mask because then at a certain point you forget.
Yeah.
So you become the mask.
Yeah.
It's like those become your mental models. And I think a lot of my friends who are dysfunctional CEOs is because they're using the mental models that made them successful in raising, in running the company.
Yeah.
And to me, some of the great CEOs are the ones who either compartmentalize or can play very different to each of these different things. But to me, it's sad because there's sort of, you take an authentic entrepreneur. To me, the key qualities you want to know is like, are they humble? Like they don't have much experience. Will they be able to learn? Will they be coachable? If they get experience, blah, 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 blah. You look at the actual generator functions. But the core of your investment is because of their authenticity, they can get to places that, not to pick on them, like the Google project manager or the Stanford MBA or, the Sequoia scout who's like asked to be on thesis for something. They're just never going to find because they're going top down. Like bottom up is always going to explore more.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's such a tragedy because we always talk about if founders could fund founders, we would do so much of a better job because you sort of know who's real, right? Like, it's like when you're in class, the person who like answers the questions best and asks the questions, like there's no sort of proof of it outside of it, but everybody's like, Jill is just like the smartest person in class. I feel like it would change things a lot if we could change what the bottleneck here is with capital. I don't have too many solutions other than given the convention that founders get rich and then they can start allocating it. Well, there's a big difference.
I feel like you're living the experiment right now, somewhat, aren't you?
100%. Yeah.
So what are you trying to prove, or what are you trying to accomplish with the way you've been approaching funding the business so far?
Well, I would say mine is more structural.
Okay.
Where like I chose something that is so hard that it's like unfundable in some sense.
Did you choose it or did it choose you?
It chose me. Yeah. So in some sense, I
feel like that's right, because as I was writing over here, I was like, this dude has chosen, entrepreneurship is hard, but you've chosen something hard on like hard mode. So there's something in here that is pulling you forward or keeping you on track because you've been at this so long. If you wanted to have given up, no one would have faulted you for it.
Yeah. I think maybe that's why I'm able to keep up on it. Is I lost the I want to be billionaire thing like so early in life. I think it's just like you have to go through these cycles. Have you read Confession by Leo Tolstoy?
Yeah.
He just goes through all the cycles but does it quick, so by the end he's enlightened. That's obviously different, but yeah, I think I just got over that stuff quickly.
Yeah.
And some combination of intuitive, which was like, I think I've always been a seeker. If you look at the books I have around here.
Right.
My dad's a psychiatrist, and the first thing you learn when your dad's a psychiatrist is he starts by describing the patient when they walk through the door. Handsome, rich, they're this, they're that. And then 10 minutes later, you learn the reality of it. So you very quickly learn the difference between appearances and the true reality, between what things look on the outside and their deepest nature. And I think that just sort of, at some level, I bring that to
was that an osmosis thing for you as a kid, or was that
talked
something
about
you
the
would
dinner
talk
table
about
all the
around the
time.
dinner table?
We talk about the dinner table all the time. He'd be like, this family, they're so rich and this, and did you know, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, what?
Right.
And so I've spent a lot of my life like looking for that.
Well, that's
sort
what I
of
was
culture.
wondering earlier when you were talking about layers. Is that were you born without those layers, or did you have to go through the work to remove them?
I had a very loving but domineering mom.
Hmm.
So I think at some level, if you don't have that full power inside, you just get squished.
Yeah.
So you're forced to just be your rawest version, because otherwise you don't have the force to be able to push through. So I think that was one side of it. I think the second side is I was so inauthentic for so long. So I just like never felt like I was good enough or I fit in. I grew up in a small town in Canada. I was like complete outlier most of my life. Like nobody else was like me there.
Yeah.
It was just me and my dad's books, essentially. I tried so hard for so long to like be for other people. At a certain point, that just kills your soul.
Yeah.
So I got depressed very often for most of my sort of past age 17 life.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, you just give up.
Right.
So I think the answers to both of like why I was sort of able to do this is everything was so hard that I just gave up to trying to like control any outcome. So I just did whatever's the path least resistance. And it's sort of weird to say the path least resistance was this like incredibly painful thing, but there was something about just orienting towards what was true for me.
Yeah.
And being okay if it failed or if it didn't work out or this or that. It sounds more virtuous than it is. Like you could say that there's sort of authenticity or bravery to it. I think the flip side is it's like almost like what I needed for myself. Like I needed to feel like I was brave and I was not a hypocrite. I'm saying all these people have all this money and they're doing all this stuff. I'm good at noticing patterns. And I'm like, they're so ineffective and they don't do what they say they're going to do. And like, and so there was like a deep, like I'm going to versus them, what I say and what I do is going to be congruent versus them. Like what they say on stage is their analysis of what the world needs to change. Like I'm going to go do that thing. The cool thing about it is nothing I did was analytically derived. It was all just bottom up personal need. But I got super lucky that it happened to be exactly sort of clicking or aligned with the high level stuff. So I think I bring a lot of these big picture or frame philosophy stuff, but I think what makes the project credible is at the core is this sort of, I just want a damn ADHD friendly computer for myself.
So what was the seed then? What was the idea that picked you? How did you originally articulate it?
It came to me because I was trying to reform my relationship to computers such that I can work on my big idea. I graduated from school. I only did that to make my mom proud. It turns out that's never ending. So I finally was like, I'm done with this karma. Like I'm not doing things to make people love me. Spent 2 years exploring around the world because I wanted to learn what the reality was.
Just traveling? No.
Backpacking.
Okay.
I got a ton
For
of
2 years.
Wow. Yeah. I just read a lot and went all over the place. And weird countries like Mongolia and Russia and Indonesia, Burma, Asia.
No goal, not trying to accomplish anything, just explore.
Well, it's sort of, in there is the answer to your question of like, where do you sort of maybe get this like lack of outcome orientation? It's because I spent 2 years realizing how much I lie to myself. Because you can't really be goal-oriented in travel, but the only thing I knew how to do is to be goal-oriented. So much of the beginning of travel was like, I'm winning. I'm looking through all of TripAdvisor. I'm reading all the reviews. I'm pirating every Lonely Planet that's related to this. I'm going through Reddit. I'm going through Maps.me. I'm finding blogs. I'm such a damn good researcher. Look, I found this trail that nobody else knows except this weird German guy that was on it, like winning. And you're like, I'm not fucking happier. What's happening?
Right.
And I would go and try to find the best stupa to meditate under. And instead of meditating, I would be like thinking of how much more I could do that day. It made me miserable. And it was really hard because you have the time of your life backpacking around the world. But I was miserable with facing how I didn't know how to make decisions that were not goal-oriented. I did not know how to follow my instincts. I didn't know how to enjoy myself. Everything had to be like, what's the best? What's the this? And how much you lie to yourself. When the tour guide says this is the famous temple, you're like, woo. But when you're trained past it, like you weren't even like excited by it. And it's like, what are you doing, man? And so I think I just had to deeply face my demons in these cheap hostels all over the world. Being like, I am constantly lying to myself. I actually am scared. I don't know what to do. And so I fill it up with what I know best, which is analytical, find the best. And so I think at a certain point you hit rock bottom on that.
Was there a place in the trip where you felt like it was your rock bottom?
Probably the two that come to mind is I was in India in this beautiful little town. I was literally waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks.
Wow.
Just like, it could not square that at all.
Mhm.
Like, life was good, but it was this existential dread that my entire life was fake. I have all these narratives, I have all these identities. I'm like putting on an act when I'm with people. Like, honestly, I don't even know what I enjoy or what I want. And then the other sort of version of it was in Burma. I went 24 hours on a very shaky bus full of throwing up Burmese people. To go to a particular town that's famous, it's called Shan Noodles. It's like a Burmese type of noodles. And I'd been told by a local, this is the place where that dish originates from. And if you go up here, you will find a bunch of like moms cooking it. And it's like the best and most authentic.
Yeah.
I did such a trek. I got there, started eating the noodles. And I just started like reading a book about statistics on my Kindle. And then I finished eating. Oh my fucking God. I don't even remember what this tastes like.
Yeah.
And that just, there was like an existential dread of facing your sort of fraudulences. If not harsh was the way I put it at the time.
Mhm. So what do you do with that?
You're very depressed. No. Dude, it was like stunning. I came back and everybody's like, oh, you read a lot, you traveled a lot, you must have found the meaning of life. And they're like, you're sort of awkward. You're sort of like, you seem anxious, you seem depressed. You can't look me in the eye. Like, you don't say
It sounds like
coherent
all of that
things.
was true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, people were just like, how are you worse for all of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I took on that projection where it's like, my mom would always say, like, you're too smart for your own good. Like, you screwed yourself up by like trying to like learn the secrets of the universe, right? I've always felt from a very young age, I've worked on little businesses the whole way, is like, I'm going to finally do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just became obsessed with the idea that we are evolved beings and much of our modern environment is mismatched to the way we were evolved. And so therefore, the key things, if you want to have an impact on health and medical stuff, is to sort of find the discrepancies between how we're evolved and how we are. And if you can then bridge that, you can then, whether it be like potentially dementia or strokes or back pain, you can make a big difference. But I was sort of doing this to run away from the existential dread of, I don't even know. Like, I was previously trying to save lives. I was trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
When all of that breaks away, you're like, I don't even know. I don't even know who I am. I'm in my parents' basement. Like, when people ask me, I used to always have a great project. I had a great idea I was working on. I had something clever, a book I read I could rattle off to them. And I had nothing. The only way I knew to get out of it was like, I need to work on an idea. I'm going to invent a cool medical thing. And I kept running into my same problems of, I intend to read this paper and now 200 tabs are open. I intend to do this thing and now I'm doing something else. And it was just like this systematic, like, you're in a hole, like, put salt in that wound, go even deeper.
Yeah.
It's a sort of systematic decimation of my self-trust and willpower that, like, if you feel like you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Like, I just wouldn't. And then the blue light, I would stay up too late and my Kindle would be frustrating. So I'd read it on a laptop or an iPad. I basically then spent a year out of desperation and very, very strongly from like mid 2018 until the end of it, trying every single thing I could do to reform my relationship to computers. So your answer of like, where did this come from? I was like, I will never be able to come up with my big idea if I don't change this. And whether I like work at Chipotle or I work at the Stanford Libraries or I'm a PM at Google or I work at a hedge fund or I'm an entrepreneur, everything I do is going to be mediated by my relationship to a computer. So wherever you put me in society, my stomach is going to drop when somebody says, can you get this thing done for me by this date? And I have to have that feeling of like, I'm not going to get it done. And so I started buying all these e-ink things. I started to get really fast printers. I tried all these ways to sort of pull the stuff out of the digital I needed to, make it analog. There it's like a safe space. I'm not going to get pulled, do it, and then somehow get it back into the digital. That was sort of the core of it.
But at the time, that was in service of the big idea, not the big idea itself.
No, it was like, if I figure this out, I can finally read the papers, I can finally do the work, I can finally come up with a great idea. I'm going to figure out dementia.
Because you felt like there was some big idea in you at that point.
No, I felt like, come on, man, get onto your big idea. Okay. Like, I was running away from the pain and the existential dread.
Amazing, okay.
Because I wanted to tell my mom, Mom, I am not an unemployed loser. I am an entrepreneur working on an idea.
Right.
When my friends would ask me, so what are you doing these days? Instead of just being like, yeah, I'm reading in my parents' basement, and I could tell them, I'm working on this idea.
Oh.
So that's what I'm saying. There's sort of a bunch of petty stuff in there, which is interesting to see in retrospect. But along the way, I got caught up in it and I got frustrated, and I've always loved computers. Just like very early on, my dad read a Bill Gates biography thing to me, and I just thought it was fascinating. And then from there, you learn
Your
about
dad
Steve Jobs.
entrepreneurial?
My dad's sort of incredibly curious,
Yeah.
sort of like an intellectual rebel,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like a genius who never did this stuff.
Mm.
So he was fascinated by investing, fascinated by entrepreneurship. He's fascinated by this. You read a ton of biographies from Rockefeller to Roosevelt to Gandhi or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think in some ways he sort of like wanted me to take on the mantle that he wished he could do.
Yeah.
So there's a journey there too, being like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be my own person.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of then go through the whole cycle and you realize you actually do really
Right.
innately love this. I just got carried away and I was really frustrated that I wasn't able to solve this. Why can't I just buy a big ass Kindle? Why does this remarkable thing not do it? And so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What did the market look like back then? It was all e-ink stuff.
So I bought not just ink stuff. I bought highlighters, I bought scanners, I bought printers. I was trying all these different things. I bought Paperlike covers, I bought anti-glare stuff, I bought every ink tablet.
Yeah.
There were Sonys, there were Boyus, there were Daesungs, there was the Remarkable, there's different Kindles, the Barnes and Nobles, blah, 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 blah. None of it really worked. Just the click was, for me, it was like, I'm my best version when I'm on my Kindle in terms of like actually reading the thing, actually feeling good, being able to be outside, like being able to fall asleep on time. And I'm like, these are all qualities that I sort of want in all my computer experiences. I want to feel like I'm not self-sabotaging myself. I want to feel like I'm not the worst version of myself. Why can't I retain these qualities and apply it to more aspects of computing? Because I don't really need a Kindle. I sort of need an iPad that has this. I sort of need my monitor to have this. I need my phone to have this.
Yeah.
And then that's when it started connected. And I'm like, oh my God. When we look around the world, we look at analog, matte, natural objects that reflect light. A flashlight or stars or fireflies, those emit light, but those are rare in nature. Our ocular and visual system is not meant for that. The computers we use are like fireflies or stars. They emit light, or flashlights. They're silhouettes on top of flashlights, right? You change where it's bright, you change where it's black, and you change where the color is. But actually what we're built for, what's natural, is these analog objects sort of ambiently lit. And I was like, aha, that's why there's less eye strain. Our entire ocular system is based around that. There's not a contrast difference. There isn't the blue light. There isn't blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Distraction. Like when you remove oversaturated colors and bings and bops and things, they're all meant for to be like, whoa, tiger, whoa, lion, whoa, snake. It's suddenly not distracting. And then I was just like, whoa, it's not a Kindle. It's not even e-paper. It's actually just a very different substrate for computing. It's sort of the natural, but less sexy versus the unnatural, but like super sexy. And sort of the rest was history. I just was stunned that nothing was good enough. And come on, it can't be that hard. So it started off as a software project, and
we didn't
7 years
start this
later,
because we thought it was going to be easy.
in a way, all the cliches are just true, right? And you go through the long journey to get there. It's like the midwit meme.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The Hallmark card and the deepest well.
So where do you even start with that then? Because you aren't a hardware engineer. You aren't even technical at that point. You're not a trained developer.
Okay, if I learn the basics of engineering, I'll actually be able to invent the stuff I want to. So my degree on my wall actually says engineering in school.
Oh,
terrible
amazing.
engineer.
Okay.
But I took a lot of mechanical engineering, computer science, electrical engineering. I'm bad at all of it. But now, when you're trying to make a whole computer that uses every single field, hardware or software, it helps to sort of have that base. The base amount of knowledge and confidence that allows you to bootstrap the rest. But yes, that's sort of one of the ways that we're unfundable. You're like, wait. This is an insanely difficult project. Like an entire company would just be the screen technology. And you have no experience. You didn't work at Apple. You didn't work at Nest. And you're going to try to do this. But that's sort of, I guess, where my personality comes from. I'm just like, I want to go learn what the world is. I'll go travel for 2 years. I'm like, how hard is screen technology? And so I just basically spent 2 years and became the world expert on one of the things. Of course, like there's the professors who've done this for 30 years, and it's really easy then when you go spend time with them and you slurp up everything they did, right? Yeah.
Did they disillusion? Did they try to talk you out of it? Did they try to push you in another different direction? Like,
oh my God.
There's other ways to, simpler software, only ways to solve this problem.
If I could find a way to anonymize it, I would love to show you screenshots of some of the emails from the beginning. Stanford profs, billionaires, like display people who had been trying to do something similar previously. My God, in retrospect, they were actually right.
I was going to ask.
They were actually right.
Yeah. What were they right about?
How improbable and insane and how hard this was. And even if you like did the insane thing of pulling it off, that you could actually do something that Amazon hasn't with hundreds of millions of dollars spent on Lab 126 budget for this stuff.
Yeah.
And then even if you do that, can you get it to production? And even if you do that, can you get it funded? And even if you do that, can you like somehow be a deep tech R&D company and do consumer? And if you do that, do it on a tiny budget and you have no network really, you have no experience. If you look at all the hardware people, they always have lineage right there. The Apple people are from HP and Compaq and IBM and whatever. And the Nest people are from Apple and et cetera.
But interestingly, a lot of those people who are coming with those pedigrees end up failing.
Yeah.
And so
and most of the people who come with my pedigrees also fail.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, it seems like the pedigree, and I don't know if it's just a hardware specific thing, but it doesn't seem, there's kind of a few different ways people view experience like that. Sometimes it is a superpower, and sometimes it's it's a millstone that really holds them back.
I mean, it's like you give two people the same book, they have the experience of the book, but it's like one person, it can change their life and not.
Yeah.
So it's two rollers when we talk about experience. But I think the problem is when you get used to the mental models of an Apple or this, then you try to apply it, you're actively screwing yourself up.
Did you try to do that though?
No.
At the beginning, you didn't try to say like, okay, here's how.
No, because I
talked to a
bootstrapped
bunch of Apple engineers.
No, I bootstrapped it.
Yeah.
So I could not afford anything in the magnitude range of whatever they had to do. So
Did
everything
you want
I had
to bootstrap it, or was that a necessity thing at the beginning? You're in the belly of the beast down there in Palo Alto at Stanford.
Yeah.
That's the default for everybody down there, is to walk across the street and just start.
It was weird too, because I was in Vancouver for in 2018 and 2019, and then I was in Palo Alto in 2019. And 2020 back in Vancouver, 2021 in Vancouver because of COVID, then back down in San Francisco, and then here since then. So it's a weird journey.
Sure.
But I would say I wanted to have integrity in a way that I saw my friends felt like torture, which is they left Stanford and raised like $30 million, slide deck and whatever. We have this Stanford AI professor behind us.
Yeah.
And then like a year in, they're like, fuck, dude, I just don't even want to use my own product.
Wow.
2 years in.
Yeah.
And since everything, like if I'm not motivated or I don't believe in anything, like I lose all of my ability. The worst thing for me was to go and try to fund or sell or do something that I didn't believe in myself, or I didn't even know would work in this. So the internal commitment I had for myself was, which is totally stupid in retrospect, the amount of money it takes to make a display. I got super lucky.
Right.
It's tens of millions of dollars. Like the fact that I made the first prototype on, my life savings, which wasn't a lot. Just incredible luck, but sometimes, those things happen. I really wanted to not sell anybody until I was sold on it. That was the first most important thing. So it wasn't even about funding. It was even hiring people or even.
So you were doing this all by yourself?
Yes, I did it for a year by myself. I had a premise based on back of the envelope math that it would be possible to sort of make this fast e-paper thing. And I'm like, I have no background in displays. It's like when anybody's new to the field, they think they've solved it. They've figured out how quantum mechanics and, special relativity come together,
right?
General relativity. And then, you realize how little you know. So I was just like, I must be an idiot. Number two is like, well, I don't even know if this works. And third is like, I don't even know if what comes of it, the product, actually is what I want.
Yeah.
Because I'm not interested in display technologies. If it existed, I would have it. That's
You
why I
just
spent
buy
so
it.
long. I spent, they talk about an idea maze. I basically spent a year in an idea maze.
What does it look like inside the idea maze?
It's insanity. It's a fever dream. I think I was not a healthy person.
Daniel, like, scans the whole room and gets every piece of paper.
And that's where it's like bullshit with that. God bless him, and I love his earnestness, but when Mark Andreessen's like, we look for people going through idea maze, I'm like, dude, a real idea maze looks like insanity and feels like shit often when you're in it. Like, stop telling people to do this. Like, this is like when you're down to the degree of you're neurotically reading like every 3-star Amazon review, you're reading all the Reddit comments, like you're buying, Like Jeff Bezos financed this business in the beginning. I'm lying. It was not fully bootstrapped. This business was financed by Jeff Bezos. I would buy every product and return it in 30 days, over and over and over and over again.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you how you were able to afford all these printers and e-inks and everything else. This is like you found a hole in the universe. But look, that's the level of creativity that a bootstrapper unlocks. You know what I mean? It's like the resourcefulness is crazy. And it sounds to me like part of that.
The display would have cost an order of magnitude more if I'd raised money, because you would have never had the desperation to sort of find these interesting chinks in the armor. So I then wanted to raise money after I sort of had the first working proof of concept, which was I proved that my sort of idea worked end of 2020. Sort of call it a benchtop prototype. This is what your PhD thesis would be about.
Sure.
And then it took a year, which I'm crazy that we did, to make the first working prototype, a tablet with the screen that you can use, and do that on very little money required. We basically Frankensteined a lot of Chinese tablets, and then got super lucky that we were able to find a display controller that, for complete randomness, matched our display. So we didn't need to go spend a bunch of money.
You know, it's not randomness.
Synchronicities, right? It's the Goethe quote: when you commit yourself to something.
Right.
Even the display thing, we were able to get a sample for really cheap because I got super lucky that in China, myopia is a massive problem, and they have a huge amount of initiatives to try to reduce myopia. And one of them is called like the Digital Textbooks Project or the e-learning project, where they're trying to find a way to get all these textbooks that are now digital onto a healthier thing. Their belief is looking at screens from such a young age is like what's driving a fair amount of the myopia sort of epidemic. It's something like 85 or 90% of people have myopia now.
What does that mean? Myopia?
Glasses.
Oh, okay.
Crazy. Like it's like absurd levels of like, clearly that's not just like some genetic thing when it goes from like 10% of the population to 90. So it turned out that
So they were invested in this problem.
No, we got so lucky. It would have cost me $800,000 to make the sample. And if we had the money, you would just be like, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what it is. And you would do it. Because I had no money, I just sort of was annoying as hell. I'd fly over there. The one currency I had was air miles, right? And I would just be like, come on, guys, like there has to be something here. Can we try this? I emailed 7 times in a row. I had nothing except being obnoxious.
Right.
And they were like, okay, you have a lucky break. It turns out we can get basically money from the Chinese government to pay for the sample, because we can qualify this as a healthier display for your eyes and get it under the digital textbooks e-learning project.
So the Chinese government subsidized.
So Jeff Bezos and the Chinese government subsidized me. There's actually a lot of stories about how we sort of made it work. We almost died a lot of times. I was personally bankrupt. I mean, I never declared bankruptcy, but I had no money by the end of 2021. And then, yes, it was super hard to raise money, but I got my first angel check that kept me alive for a little bit more.
What did the product look like for that first angel check? What did they see, or what were you able to show?
So they saw my sample screen that was finally 60 FPS e-paper. So think of your Kindle, but it's as fast as an iPad.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the, people have been waiting a decade for the breakthrough. And then it was duct taped together with a bunch of parts from cheap Chinese tablets. And I joke to this day, like, there's like fake it till you make it. We taped it till we made it, like tape it till you make it. And I think my brilliant insight was wrapping it in gaffer tape rather than duct tape. Gaffer tape is what they use in musicals and concerts, and basically it has a nice texture and grip to it. And so the thing actually felt good when you held it in your hands.
And this was just total coincidence.
Total coincidence, because I was hanging out with a friend who had moved from England to Canada, and he used to do video production, and he had gaffer tape lying around. And I was living out of my car, and something was broken, so he gave me gaffer tape, and I'm like, this feels good. And so I borrowed his gaffer tape and taped over, the glue and everything else.
Right.
And I swear, to this day, obviously the screen is what made people go, what the hell, you did this? But I swear,
this is gaffer tape.
How did you find that?
Well,
I promise it's not a plant. Okay. I have the same brand.
Oh, that does feel good.
And so I swear to this day, the tape it till you make it was a crucial part of it. Because when you held it, that sticky duct tape, I don't think would have created the same emotional experience if I'm selling you on this being a warmer, more humane, natural computer.
Yeah.
And so it's little shit like that, like not planned.
Right.
But that was the prototype I brought. At first, I didn't really know that many people, but somebody on Twitter, this guy named Dan Romero, Coinbase guy.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a thing. He wished he had a Substack Kindle. I DM'd a bunch of times, it didn't work. Somehow somebody else DM'd him and he replied. And so that guy put us in touch by Telegram. And from Dan Romero to one other, to this, to that, like all the institutions. So your question of like, did I try to raise money or did I get no's? At that point, whatever institutions I got introduced to, they all said no.
Okay.
They're like, this is going to cost you $50 million. You have no experience. This is insane complexity. Like think of Tony Fadell, how much it cost him on Nest. He's friggin' Tony Fadell, and it was a thermostat.
Yeah.
You're going to try to reinvent computers with a new display technology. That's one startup. Bringing consumer hardware to market, two startup. And then all these ambitions for the future of knowledge work and personal software. That's like 3 or 4, startups right there. You're insane.
Was that shocking to you though? Like when you went into those conversations, had you convinced yourself that like VCs are risk takers? They want to
100%.
fund the next like world bending idea, and this felt like a world bending idea. So why aren't they taking you seriously?
Especially when there is a build manifesto, and then you go have breakfast with them for 2 hours, and you're like, huh? You're never gonna do hardware again? Anyways, it's just like
unless it's the humane people coming out of Apple, or unless it's like somebody who has this,
Adam
like,
Newman that has this, or Andy Rubin who's already the founder of Android, or
that's right.
Those like interesting exceptions. Yeah, it was deeply heartbreaking and contradictory because what they say on stage and what they say in their papers and what they say in their blog posts and what they say in real life when it comes down to it. And I think I was reasonably articulate. So I don't think a bunch of it was due to like, I could not describe the idea well. Obviously there's a learning curve. I got way better over time, but I sort of was just like, this is so obvious. This is so obvious. And I can maybe go into why, but it's just so obvious because if you know how fervent people around the Kindle are, and you know the disposable income people have a Kindle, you know the number of hours they spend around their Kindle. It's like, if you can make a better Kindle, like the same way people pay $2,000 for a Herman Miller chair that's not, 10 times better than a $70 IKEA chair.
Right.
You can make that sort of difference on a Kindle. Like that is huge. The Remarkable tablet at that time sold tens of millions.
Right.
Now it sells hundreds of millions. And it's a pretty limited product. Awesome, inspiring. Our code name was the Unremarkable Project for a variety of reasons. And like, if there has to be a lot of demand if that's the case. And I'm just like, everybody I know around me who's like the highest performers are realizing if you want to do a good job here, you got to take care of nervous system, mental health, physical health. You got to get the whole stack.
Yeah.
Everybody's re-engineering their life around performance. And performance is Maslow's hierarchy. And computing is missing being refactored by Maslow's hierarchy. So even if you don't buy any of my shit about optimism or good or this or that, this is actually potentially the best way to get performance. This is why Magnus Carlsen takes so much care of his diet and sleep and nervous system and meditation and health. Because computers are compromising so many of the aspects of you, including this part of you. That's where the problem of distraction. So I can actually make you so much more productive. You can either try Superhuman and save 30 minutes, or I can like stop you from self-sabotaging yourself on TikTok, and I will save way more time, which makes you way more productive than anything else. So I was like, from first principles, this is just like, it's so true for me, and it has to be true for other people.
But I would imagine from the investor standpoint, you walk through a whole hierarchy of reasons they would say no, but I would imagine...
I never walked it through. I'm just saying that's what they told me.
No, I know. But I would imagine one of the more deflating aspects of that was probably that it was a no at hardware. Meaning like...
you didn't even get the rest.
They didn't even get the rest.
Yeah.
Because it was like hardware, nope.
Yes. I think you're right. The most deflating thing was a no based on the category.
Yeah.
When what they ostensibly say is all the money is made in outliers. Nobody thought search was going to make money, but like, Google did this. Nobody thought social network would do this. And right, like you hear them say over and over example, every big market starts out as a toy. You read their blogs and it's like, why are you not? What is going on here?
Right.
And you're like, oh, you're traumatized by Jawbone. Oh, you're traumatized by this. Oh, you're traumatized by, you sold Oculus for billions, but it's very close to this. Like, you sort of see their traumas, whatever, but you're like, this is exactly what it means to be an investor, where there is the surface and you just spend 15 minutes of falsifying your priors to see if this is different.
Mm-hmm.
And the lack of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 15, heck, even 2 minutes of falsifying your priors, that was the most disappointing.
I bet so.
That was so disappointing.
How did that contrast with your experience with Dan or some of the other angels that you spoke to?
Well, it was like crazy how much we like, none of the institutions said yes to us.
Yeah.
We had a very high hit rate on founders and operators and like really, like sort of founder of Dropbox, Oculus, Pinterest, you go down the list, like Notion, whatever. I think the difference there is they looked at it from a very different lens, where they didn't have I think there was just a subconscious, how the fuck do I tell my partners we should do a hardware pitch with a founder with no experience, who looks like he just like crawled out of his car and is telling me he's gonna like make something Amazon didn't make, and he's gonna make a new brand around it, and he's gonna sell it on
And
people
something that like
optimism.
Google and Facebook and the
Yes.
biggest companies in the world can't figure out how to make.
Yeah, they're just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, why am I even taking the social capital on this? Like, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's like 0.1%.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have that. I think the second thing is a lot of them went, oh my God, this is exactly what I want for myself. Or, oh my God, this is exactly what I want for my kid.
Yeah.
I don't want my kid growing up with VR goggles on their head all day. This is what I want for them. And I think when you went from the abstract of analyzing it to the actuality, Steve Jobs didn't allow his kids to have iPads or iPhones, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg does not allow his kids to be on social networks. You look at the actual actions of the people who are informed about this, they get it.
Yeah.
So if you can go from here and you sort of go to just the deep common sense of it, it was just like, I want this. My eyes hurt. I get distracted. Like, duh. You read enough books. Feynman's like, the best way I get my work done is a legal pad sitting outside away from distractions. Maya Angelou, like how many Farnham Street podcasts, Patrick Osh, like how many things Cal Newport do you have to read to understand this is actually the best way to perform?
Yeah.
So I think they get that. And this is what they wanted for their kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the third thing is they were a lot more willing to just take a bet like, whoa, this guy really cares about this. And he has walked through all of the details. I think it's proof of work. Like you can take me through operating system history. You can take me down into display physics. You can take me down into, why Arc'teryx is able to make things unique versus VF Corp, North Face. Like,
Yeah.
and I think VCs, because they're just sort of pattern recognizing, they have 1,000 meetings a week. They're just trying to get through it. There is no sort of going for underneath the iceberg, underneath the water.
Was there any sense from
But
them?
founders did.
Or did you ever get a sense from them of like, what would they need to see to have gotten excited about it? Like, was it a number of units sold? Was it a final production model? Was it a distribution partner? Was it a sold out Kickstarter or a pre-sale or something like that? I don't know. Like, did you get any kind of like sense for what a fundable hardware startup looked like for them?
I think probably the biggest couple things is one, there's this particular inflection one of my friends is a very successful founder has, and Sam Altman does it, where you sort of come in and you go, what I'm about to tell you is almost certainly a bad idea. That's what most people think. But that's why at the end of this conversation, you might not get it, but that's why I think we uniquely have a $100 billion opportunity here. Whatever. I can even do a better job at that. There's like,
Where do I
there's
send the check?
there's like a certain way of fucking this, like, to me, it's just like, it's so
the
pretentious.
theatrics of it.
So the theatrics of basically making, like the entire VC industry had this basically, I call it like Mark Zuckerberg insecurity.
Yeah.
They're like, software has no moat, it has no IP, whatever, you need. And then you're like, what the fuck? This kid who knew nothing is now like making so much money, and it doesn't matter whether the product is good or not. This network effect thing bails you out. You can just push money in and you sort of, and then they're like, I don't know who's gonna make us money. Let's fund everybody who looks like it. We don't know anymore. We don't have to do any of this.
Well, I remember
It's deep
I think PG.
You were
wrote
there
a-
more than me.
I think PG even wrote an article which was basically like, I'll get tricked by someone because they look like Mark Zuckerberg. I will fund somebody because they actually just look like him, and I'll think that they're the next one.
So if I can play to the stature, inflection, language, tonality, sort of piercing eye contact
right.
that matches to somebody else before that you've put in your bucket of worth and the exception, worth and outlier,
Yeah.
I can activate your Mark Zuckerberg insecurity where you're like, this guy sounds like an absolute nutcase or a moron, but fuck, what if maybe he's just a genius? And he's just like one of those outlier founders, and maybe I'm the one who's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And, 9 out of 10, that's still not gonna work, but 1 out of 10, they're gonna be like, fuck, maybe he's the one.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it. I think the second thing is the sort of, we're not doing hardware. We think of hardware as negative customer acquisition costs for our software. 3 years, we're giving the hardware away. Blah, 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 blah. And you sort of construct it in a particular way that is like, you're going to spend $100 on ads. Well, my hardware gets so much attention. Essentially, whatever profit on the hardware is negative customer acquisition, whatever. There's like a particular, it's not even about hardware. It's not even about hardware. And then I think the third thing is then the social signaling aspect of it. Like you're far better at playing the social game to leverage one social signal against the other. And
were you surprised at how important that was? How
even
powerful
to
that
founders.
was?
Yes. It's so easy to be like, VCs. But it's founders. It's like this important founder will not meet you, but if his buddy says, yeah, it's good, then he's like, oh yeah, I'll meet him. And it's like his buddy spent 3 minutes. It's like not even like, and afterwards he describes what the text his buddy sent. And it's like 9 words that are not even very descriptive. And you're like, the key problem here is nobody has the space to actually feel or think. There's not enough good filtration mechanisms for those who are most earnest, who are most proof of work, those who most have the chutzpah or the trueness, they're real. So you then have to rely on all these shitty heuristics of filtering. And then those who are good at winning the game of getting through those filters and then playing to your biases win. And I learned a lot of convincing somebody is not making the best positive arguments, is never making an argument that they can falsify. Because they're actually not present enough to evaluate the magnitude of what you're saying. What they're actually doing is like, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Nah, that doesn't make sense. He said something insane. He's naive or this. And if in the end, it's sort of like, I can't really falsify that. It's all sort of flowed. And if you're very confident, you can sort of overpower with examples. Then they're like, I guess, yeah, this sounds intriguing. Let me get a second meeting or whatever it may be. I'm sort of jumping a bunch here, but I think I try to build a company with this insight that how busy you are determines the cognitive activities that actually are available to you, which then determines sort of what you do. If you have spaciousness in your day, you can have more time for thinking. Everybody's like, think more, but they're like, there's no time in their calendar. You are your calendar. Go for more walks, take longer showers, do the dishes, do stupid stuff that allows you. If you don't have that spaciousness, you don't have time for actual thinking or reasoning or this. If you have to do 100 things, you're forced into heuristics versus if you can go a little bit deeper, which you can't do with everybody.
Sure.
But then you need a good instinct for what sort of proofs of work are there. And I always think about it in hiring, like what sort of the unfakeable signals that somebody's real, sort of proof of work is the way I say it. So I think if those sort of dynamics can change, then you get a far different class of companies and entrepreneurs and so on that could exist. I mean, it took it's like 109 angels for our first seed round. Think of the number of rejections.
109.
Yeah.
To raise how much?
Sort of across 2 tranches, but call it roughly 8 something million.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yes, that's a sizable amount of money, but for hardware, it's nothing.
Nothing. No, I know. And for the volume of investors, that is amazing. Wow. Of the ones that said no, you said some of them were right.
Well, I think
for any red flags that they raised for you when you started out, and whether they rejected you as an investor or whether it was an industry expert who was like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
What were they right about?
Well, I think they were basically all right. They just missed 2 things. One was spending enough time to realize that there's sort of a ridiculous coincidence here that makes this work. Like the chink in the armor to get into personal computing. Think of how much money Windows tried to spend to get a mobile operating system and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And the other side is, I think if you just sort of saw how I came to this, I think there was only 2 ways to invest. Is like you spent the time to get to like, whoa, or you saw me. To be honest, there's a third, which is just the demo blew you away and you're like, I fucking want this. Your question is, what mistake did they make? Or
no, what were
make?
they right
about everything?
About?
They were right about everything. Doing displays is insanely hard because it's the same as making an Intel chip.
Is that what took 7 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, also, I didn't have money, right?
Sure.
So bootstrapping from mid-2018 until the end of 2021 to get the first prototype and get the first angel check, and then 22 to 24 to then, you turn that money into actually making hardware, which was like a crazy scram. And then this last year, which was like launching the product, selling it, selling out, and then trying to, close a fundraise and build the team. And
What did it look like from a team standpoint, resources standpoint, to go from your working prototype to like a manufacturable prototype to a production product? It seems like there's so many points of failure in there.
Yeah. Oh my God. And if you look at most of these projects, they'll invent a new screen. They'll completely fail getting into production because it costs $100 million. Right. So like, if you actually just see the number of great filters, that was the other way to analyze this. You're like, if you just sat and you just spent the time to do an accounting and you're like, well, that's a great filter. Well, that's a great filter. Like, they've passed 14 great filters.
Right.
Like most companies at this stage pass 2 great filters, 4. Like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Even if it looks early, maybe it's weirdly de-risked in a way that you didn't expect. If we can trust that this founder can grow into being a leader and build an institution around him, this and that. Well, it was, I'll show you visually. It was like, there was 3 of us, and then there was 4, and then there was 30 of us, and then there were 7 of us. At the same time, the Snow Peak tables, there's a sort of, you can see, it's sort of like the pendulum. If you've been, every penny has mattered for a long time, you don't know how to spend money.
I was going to say, what was the relationship with that $8 million you raised? Going from like sleeping in your car to Snow Peak tables and Herman Miller chairs.
No Herman Miller chairs, not for us. We did get some nice steel case chairs, but all used.
Nice.
So there's some balance.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of power that comes out of, you're like, I'm not going to sell a single person on this until I believe it. But then when you believe it, you're like, I fucking know this better than anybody else. Like, this is going to exist. This is actually, like, I'm not delusional. Like, now it's just other people getting up to enough context that they actually see what I see.
Yeah.
So then there's just like this force of like, this needs to exist and needs to happen. And then it was also like, holy shit, we still don't actually have that much money. The actual core cost is time. So if I can do it quickly.
Yeah.
And so I just went analytically, and I'm like, 1 hardware engineer, 1 electrical, 1 supply chain, 1 this. And even if you just have 1 person for each function, which is like, in that sense, very lean, you end up with like 27 people.
That's amazing.
Because your case needs an industrial designer, your tablet needs an industrial designer, your stylus has this, you blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You have a reading app, you have an operating system stuff. It's like, there's a reason Apple has so many people.
Right.
And then I quickly realized this sort of famous thing, which is more people doesn't make things go faster. And it was like a crazy learning curve to have to fire so many people and have a bunch of people quit and sort of like do a horrible, horrible job at scaling this. Horrible.
What mistakes did you make? Jumping from 3 to 30 or 7 to 30 is like super aggressive. So what was the mistake in there?
I sort of similar to the travel, I made building a company a video game. So I was like, I'm going to win this video game. I'm going to like think of all the best people I know, and I'm going to go try to recruit them. And winning the video game means more people at the top of the list at the highest percentage, like closing is winning.
Yeah.
And that is not how you build a team. And also, you don't hire 6 people and then immediately go to more. See how that works in this. A lot of the times when there is uncertainty, my conditioning is to go into this, I'm really good at winning video games type thing.
Yeah.
And then you realize you have a team that has no culture, that don't work well together, that on paper are geniuses. I recruited a ton of ex-founders, and then they just like cannot work for somebody else.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
It's like, and
what did you ignore in the hiring process? Or what didn't you see in the hiring
I
process?
single-mindedly focused on potential.
Ah.
I did not see the person in front of me. Or if I did, I was like, well, like me, they will also be able to get through this. Like, I sort of am incompetent at everything, and I somehow bootstrap myself to a reasonable place. If they care enough, they will do this. So I sort of went for like people who care enough about the mission or the product and are just the highest potential. And it's just like, I forget who says it, but somebody's like, if you gave me a genius versus somebody I can trust, I'll pick the person I can trust. Every single time. Like a Navy SEAL type person said that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main thing, is sort of how humbling it is. In every blog post that says always pick the people or high potential experience is overrated. Well, it's not that so simple, right? It's domain specific. If you're doing software where the cost of failure is nothing and you need to do 1 million iterations, then you want people who can do a lot of iterations quickly and don't come with preconceived notions. But the cost of iteration is super expensive when you're dealing with Android and files where there isn't the same million open source web libraries. Very different set of mental models, very different set of things. So I felt sort of betrayed because I followed all the advice I read on the internet.
Why did you default to the advice though? You've been blazing your own path all along and suddenly you're going to get conventional?
I think a lot of my life is not, I think the deepest essence is authentic and real in that.
Yeah.
But at some level, I lost a lot of trust in myself.
Oh.
So then I would be the conventional, but then I would do it so full-assed, it would like smash me in the face. And then you're forced to be real or authentic or not outcome. So actually a lot of the times I'm like a coward, but then it smashes you in the face or you feel so bad, you become brave. But it's not like bravery is the quality. It's like devotion is the real quality and bravery is the emergent thing. So it's like in a place of uncertainty, as much as I like to think I'm original, my nervous system would still go to like, I will study it and learn it all and do this. Versus the harder work of, you know, having a hard time with somebody and then being vulnerable with a mentor and be like, dude, I don't even know how to onboard somebody. Like, I don't even know if this person respects me. Like, should I be mean to them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, like all this stupid shit when you're insecure that you do.
Right.
So I think I learned through the hard way and I come back to some sort of balance.
What are the most imprinted learnings from that experience for you?
Like good imprints or bad?
Both. Most impactful.
I think one is around standards. When I look on the internet and I'm like, who's gonna buy this thing? It sucks. And I read the reviews and it's like, what are you talking about? Read 2 reviews so you can see this thing's not worth it. And a year or 2 later, I'm like, they're still selling and they come out. Like, how does this world work? And then I realized, by the time the product is good enough for me, it's a very different part of the diffusion curve. So if I only use my product taste and my product instincts and that, you will never be successful because you miss the entire ramp up to get there. And the reason those things where I'm like, this doesn't make any sense is because there is that early part of the diffusion curve that people are that desperate or so passionate or so into the idea or whatever it may be. And so I tried to do everything according to my taste. Because, you know, what does everybody say? Build the product for yourself, do it for yourself. There's a deep authenticity there, but right, you need a pragmatism on top of it that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And so I think one big impact was realizing like, it's okay to feel slightly, like you can tell my inner monologue's harsh. It's okay to feel slightly fraudulent where you're like, oh, this product is not that good. But it turns out for a shit ton of people, it's like amazing. It's just different parts of the diffusion curve, right? And you having the taste you do gives you the chance to keep improving it over a long period of time. And so I was surprised on software, I wanted to do this and we did this. On hardware, I wanted to do this and we did this. On screen, I want to do this and we did this. And I was just like, I failed at everything, all of it. And then like, you get pretty damn good reviews about the product and you get a really low return rate and people really like it. And the daily user and the weekly user rates are really high. And it's just like, whoa. So I know you can do way less than you think it is, but if you nail the core thing, it sort of can be good enough for some period of the diffusion curve. And often the instincts and intuitions we have, is this good for my mom? Will my friend like this? That's when it's like, if your mom likes it, your friend liked it, like that's when you're selling millions of this thing, dude. And so just sort of, I would have a lot of like, this thing's gonna fail because it's not good enough for me. And so I had to let go of that
It's
tension.
just that huge taste gap.
Yes, the iron glass sort of taste gap.
Yeah.
I think that's a big one. Everything is harder and longer and slower than you ever think it is. Like I just sort of wanted to be like, okay, this guy's blog post was like, I sound like an idiot. They're like, oh, if you get deep alignment, it sort of fixes everything else. Ownership mentality and alignment fixes everything else. So I'm like, I will find people who are the most mission aligned and who most care about this.
Right.
And I will not, as Warren Buffett says, I won't delegate, I'll abdicate. And it's like, that doesn't always work. It does not work. And so realizing just the sheer amount of investment and effort it takes, I don't mean that just negatively, just like the amount of time you want to prioritize to get somebody to have trust with them for both your nervous systems to feel safe, to be honest with each other, to get them up to speed on context, to get through the learning curve, actually get to the point where you actually see who they are versus just like, people are always like fire fast, but it's also like, people have learning curves, man. You would fire everybody at some point versus like 1 or 2 outliers. This sort of ennui of like, everything is harder and slower and heavier than you'd expect, which at least for me really made me just have much stronger boundaries, because I was just like, I can't do these 18-hour days over and over and over again. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to shortcut the hiring process to make it less effort, to sort of make it work energetically for me. If it needs to be this many people and that much time and date for longer and anti-sell and spend the time, then, oh gosh, the entire thing's going to take longer. I don't have the willpower to do that for that long. So I have to just like not work on a Saturday or the weekends, or like close shop early, or whatever it may be. It's all sort of simple, obvious things, but when you're young and you tie your identity to it, you know, it feels like a big
I was going to
deal,
say, that
so.
almost feels like, I don't know at the time what it felt like, but I would assume there was some element of like concession, meaning you're surrounded by
Yeah,
people who are going nonstop.
yeah.
If you open the internet, you're going to see companies growing from $0 to
Yes.
$100 million.
Oh,
in
my
3 weeks.
friends, how much money they raised, or they did this, or
Yes.
yeah.
Right. So there has to be some element of letting go.
That's probably my greatest strength now, is I've sort of been like, I'm like fully surrendered. I'm just like, somebody said it, you got so tired, you didn't have the energy to worry. It's just like, I gave up on worry. I didn't realize you could do that. And so, and it's like stunning now how productive and effective and sort of good a decision maker, whatever, all the spectrum it is. But yeah,
What's that meant for the culture of the company?
a fair bit, 70% of the company culture still is from the inertia of the launch and the balls to the walls. Like, this thing's either dead or going to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I think me being this surrendered is a sort of like this last fall to now. I mean, it's always built up to it, but it's sort of like a bridge, whether it's 30% complete or 70% complete, it's 100% useless. Like, it's sort of, you hit, when it's like, when it's 99 and you can jump the last like little bit, then you get like all the, it was sort of like that, like all the work of 6 years, emotionally, spiritually, as a leader, whatever, internally, sort of started to come together. I think the big thing there is I've noticed people are far better at holding boundaries. For some reason, they take me more literally. They take the leadership more literally. When we're like, take a break, they're not just like, they're telling us to test us somehow. I wouldn't even be able to maybe say concisely why that's the case. Number two, it feels like there's a higher quality of proactive ideas or bad assumption, like ferreting out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like somehow there's some spaciousness for people to be like, what the fuck are we doing this? Whereas the previous stage, just like in the busyness of it. And I think the third thing is people seem a lot less on edge. In the beginning, they're really on edge because they're like, dude, is this guy like, you become some weird Buddhist hippie and doesn't care anymore? Like, is my job security? Like, you know, they say don't go into business with an enlightened being because if it goes bankrupt, he's just like, okay. You want them to feel a little bit, right? So there's like the initial on edge of like, we're like, what's the plan? Are you worried about this? And he's like, yeah. It's just like, what the fuck, dude? Give me. And then at a certain point, you're just like, oh, wow, things are happening. Decisions are better. He's not being the dysfunctional CEO so many of these, like, you know, we all experience. And then there's sort of a trust, like, it's taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel weird to say this, but I sort of feel like it's funny that so many startups are these like young men who sort of are like this 12-year-old, I'll show you so energy. But a lot of what it takes to build an institution is you're the dad.
Yeah.
You're the emotional grounding pole of the whole thing. You transmute the negative to the positive or whatever it may be. And I think that sort of nervous system calmness goes a long way. And sort of everybody's like, dad has got it all safe. So I don't know. I could be making all of this up, but my guess is.
But does that mental model sit with you, being the father figure of this enterprise?
Aesthetically, no.
Yeah.
But actually, if you sort of sit with it, it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
you never appreciate your dad for putting food on the table because there's just food on the table. But if you're starving, you understand how much, right? Like, no one appreciates there's money in the bank.
Right.
It's just like, of course, there's a company. But you realize how that is your number one job by far, to make sure there's, quote unquote, food on the table.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it very much has a fatherly component to it. You know, you're people's therapists, you're the ultimate decision maker. People want it to be back and forth dialectic dialogue, but actually a lot of the time I've noticed people really enjoy it when there's like a clear, like, no, this is what we're going to do, which is the opposite of what things say. Like, you want people to push back. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but actually people also are cultured by school, where the school teacher gives you the homework and tells you how you're graded. And that's what you're used to, right? Your entire being. So and I think there's just like a fascinating setup there that is not talked about enough, how it's like 12-year-old, like, I'll show the world energy is who leads these companies, but then potentially to evolve them into institutions, it's sort of like the energy of a father.
As I'm sitting here surrounded by all of these notes, what does the absolute chaos say about the culture of the company too?
I love it. No, you got. If I'm saying spicy stuff, you got to ask spicy stuff back, right? Yeah.
I want
You ask the real.
Yeah,
I'll have
there's a
this
whole
question.
there's memes about rooms that look like this.
So I'd say maybe that is the most meaningful in some sense.
That's one with the
one with all the sticky notes.
stickies, okay.
Because that was what was meant to be 9 months of software roadmap for an operating system. And then there was one over there that had like 60 sticky notes laid out.
I can see it, yeah.
But basically, now what we realized what we did, it was not 9 months of software planning. It was 7 years of building the next operating system and personal computing ecosystem.
Wow.
And I just find it hilarious how easy and clear and naive it was in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And now if I try to think of OS level primitives and, hey, all we have is pinch to zoom, what if you could do blank? And, you know, it's so hard to think of that stuff. And it was so easy in the beginning. And so it's just like a reminder to me that, like, the child's mind, that stuff that was there in the beginning, actually in many ways, you're sort of now executing on a fountain of inspiration that you had quite some time ago.
Yeah.
And it's really fresh, actually, and way more innovative than what I can come up with right now. And so it's both humbling and inspiring to sort of see what could be 7 years worth of work
I bet so.
on some sticky notes.
Does this reflect what it's like to operate inside of this business, or to try to run this business or corral this business?
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
Because I think the psyche of the founder ends up becoming the permeating thing.
Yeah.
The medium answer is it's sort of like a layer cake, where it's like, I'm like high creativity, idea output, draw, shoot, aim or something. It's like,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
like you're like biased to action.
Right.
So the next layer of the
Ready,
cake.
fire, aim, is that what we're
Yes,
going for?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
yes, you're ready, fire, aim. Exactly. The people I put around me are often like really hardcore systematizers and discipline and OCD types. And at some level, we were joking, like the point here is to get the layers of the functional asylum right. Take the very ADHD person and put them with the highly systematizing Asperger person and the highly neurotic OCD person. And they'll either kill each other, or if it works, they will annihilate two normies. And then on the other side of the systematizers is then another layer of sort of creatives, like get shit done types, but like high creatives.
Yeah.
And then the last layer would be like just like get shit done individual contributors who just, you know, for all intents and purposes, are mercenaries. Yeah, it's just sort of naturally come that way.
And it works.
Worked so far to get here.
Yeah.
It's sort of we had very few people. Like at the launch, there's a bunch of people in terms of contractors and part-timers, but the main team was like 7, 8 people.
Amazing.
Which,
Still there. Still at 7 or 8.
yes. No, we're like 16 full-time.
Oh, okay.
And then when you include part-time and contractors, sort of like 25.
Right.
But yeah, there's 3 of them are customer service. 2 of them are, you know, social media, Twitter, Instagram. Like,
Okay.
core team is still really small. The hardware team, you know, it's funny. Other people say the pitch that we're not a hardware company, we're all AI and software. And then they have like 30 hardware people. I'm like, yeah, we do consumer hardware, and like the operating system is going to be the most important part in the ecosystem. But like, I'm not going to pretend you're stupid.
Right.
And we have our hardware team is 2.5 people. And
Yo. Okay.
so it's
That's efficient.
yes, and unsustainable. It's so much work.
That's what the new round is for.
Yeah, my hope is people sort of have some myths busted by what we're doing. And I sort of see our survival as an existence proof that some of these things may be more myth than truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think we're lucky, and this might not be repeatable. And if I did this 9 more times, it probably might have failed in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But
You might have enough lives in you
I am Indian.
to take that.
Even
more shots at
reincarnation. Yeah. I think I probably should go.
Okay.
I'd be late.
Okay. Could we get a couple pictures real quick?
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I hope there was something in there for you to take away from it. I hope that part of your experience in hearing this was to reconfirm and maybe recommit to those ideas and values that you hold dear in terms of what it is you're trying to build, and that you'll take some courage in seeing that there's a path forward and being true to those. And if you are working on something that's true to yourself and that fits inside the indie portfolio, don't hesitate to reach out.